Well, I just recently had a customer, a little bit in a complaint, a little, not a complaint, but they're just kind of not sure about contracts in Texas and how contracts work in Texas for contractors. So maybe 10 or 15 years ago, we had the license board in TDLR in Austin, and every time you had a contract that was over $500, you were required to email or fax it in. Okay, why? Because that protected the consumer. Because we had a lot of contractor consumer complaints at that time. And when there was a conflict between the contractor wanting to get paid and then the consumer not being happy, we had a license board. So we had to pay every year $1,000 a year to get your license, or it was $500 a year. They changed it a couple times. But you got your license as a general contractor in Texas. And then after that, every contract you got, you had to fax it in. So, or email it in. Sometimes they would call you back and say, this part of the contract is incorrect. Because why are they worried about that? They're just scrutinizing the contractors. No, because they're trying to resolve all the problems that they have in the courtrooms in Texas, of overloaded courtrooms in Texas that have disputes between contractors and customers. See, it's actually more fair when the contractor has a contract. That's the whole point of the name, right? Contractor. So, yeah, I know a lot of the contractors out there, they don't use a contract. They just give you a couple of scribbles. There's no real scope in what you're actually trying to provide for the payment you're receiving, the agreement, right? So think about it. When you go to Lowe's, when you go to Home Depot, when you go to your local flooring store that does flooring, you sit down at a desk with an associate from the store, and they sit you in front of a computer, and they go through a whole bunch of series of questions. Color, style, countertop edging, just about every detail you could imagine. And when you get it just right, what happens? Well, they print it out right there and then. They schedule with you and they do all that. You sign that document. You give it back to the Home Depot or the flooring store. They make a copy and they give you a copy of the signed document. No one, when they go to Home Depot or Lowe's or the flooring store or any other place, even questions it, because it's actually the right way to do it, even in Texas, for a painting contractor, for whoever is doing the contracts. It's fair to the customer. They know exactly what they're getting. They have all the time they need to look over the stuff they need. But if there happens to be a dispute, even with the contract, which it can happen, there are a lot of ways from that point to move forward. But conflicts do happen. And so I think the bad thing are the contractors that don't care. They just scribble in there, and they are really in a hurry to get into the job. But then when they try to get paid, if there's a conflict, then they want to try to deal with it. Then they go make phone calls. They're harassing the customer and the consumers. They're blasting people on the internet. And see, if you had a contract, right, wouldn't that all go away? You'd say, the customer could look at the contract and say, you said you were going to put the toilets back in. Or you said that the flooring would be this type. You brought us this type. There it is. No conflict. If you're going to say, okay, if the finished work isn't to quality or things aren't right, it's all right there. And see, occasionally a customer will complain, but actually we've always been doing that system. It's just that most contractors don't in Texas. So, but I pray that we don't go back to the system where we got to email and fax everything into Austin. I think we are capable enough. So imagine Home Depot has to fax every contract in to TDLR. Texas would have to hire someone basically for each contract in each store. I mean, it's just, so they eliminated that program. But let's not let's not provoke them. Let's just do our best to have a contract of some type. It's just a recommendation. This is Andy. See you later.